was a song now and forever, and it's never been told. Cause the dead never live, the living never die, the laughing never whispers, whispers don't cry, and the sunshine don't sing, and the birds don't fly. If you don't save that water, we're all gonna die. If you don't save that water, we're all gonna die.
I want to mention that there was never any actual evidence that linked Charles Manson to any of the murders. He wasn't even present for any of them. The concept of helter-skelter, and whatever else District Attorney Bugliosi dreamt up, was the only supporting factor in the case. The attorney was very convincing, and for whatever reason, the jury felt that it made sense. Manson was sentenced for conspiracy to commit murder based only on circumstantial evidence, which was the story. Even the star witness had no idea about any plans or the helter-skelter race war.
What about the accuracy of the book, though, Charlie?
He had the dates right and the names right, but he had a million illusions that had nothing to do with my reality. He was only trying and convicting his own reality. Didn't have anything to do with me. I've already been through all these prisons.
But he did paint you as probably one of the most universally known persons
To who?
around, to readers, people who read it.
And they believed it?
I don't know. What do you think?
Then they're not as good as what they read, are they?
Sharon Tate's own mother disagreed with the sentencing, and did not believe Charles Manson should have been held responsible for her daughter's death.
This man was not guilty of murdering my daughter, okay? Of all the 7 murders that I know of, he did not commit one of them, all right? I feel that he has taken the blame for all of them. And the ones that should be blamed for is Tex Watson and Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, all of the girls.
Even if Manson had suggested the LaBiancas or Tate Polanski home be raided, it doesn't make him guilty of any wrongdoing. The LaBiancas were a known mafia family who used a grocery store as a front, and Roman Polanski, Sharon Tate's husband, was a known child rapist.
Roman Polanski has been infamous for having sex with a 13-year-old girl and fleeing the United States.
Any others were just collateral damage for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The only reason Manson was tied to any of the murders was because that's where the actual murders had been crashing at the time. Susan Atkins was picked up for Grand Theft Auto, and while in jail, was overheard bragging about playing in and tasting Sharon Tate's blood after she was murdered. Someone that supposedly was forced to do something against their will doesn't brag about it after, let alone revel in the blood and guts. Some people are going to bring up the swastika on his forehead, so I'll just cover that quickly and then get on with it. Manson was just over 5 feet tall, and was raped in jail a number of times. This was his way of getting protection, to join a gang. They knew he was in front of many cameras, so of course they'd make the condition to have it done on his forehead. It was the agenda of those that took him under his wing. Race means a lot in jail, and he had no other options for a gang. As always, there will be links in the description with more info. There was so much more to the story, but I'm not going to get into all of it in this video. This video is about the other side of Manson, that was either mocked or ignored altogether, and how it was most likely the inspiration for the original story of the Lorax. It was 1971 that Manson was convicted for the deaths of 7 different people. The media made him out to be this satanic cult leader. Meanwhile, his only true belief was called Atwa. Not once did the court acknowledge or recognize what that was, or what it meant.
You know, I'm reaching for perfection, just like we all reach for perfection. But my perfection is in the air, the water, the trees, and the wildlife, and it goes beyond my physical. You see what I'm saying? In other words, they can't understand, I've already gave this physical up, man. The physical's hanging down there on the courtroom. You know, if you want to interview me, why don't you go talk to the DA, maybe he can make up some more lies for you, some more stories for you.
Atwa stands for air, trees, water, and animals, which equates to all the way alive. Its main purpose is a war against pollution, preserving Mother Nature, planting trees, saving the bees. Manson's god was Mother Nature. If Manson was a monster, why would he have been running a Save the Planet project when he couldn't even enjoy it? Why wouldn't he be pushing the ideology that Bugliosi dressed him up in? He had every opportunity to have whatever he liked on his websites, yet he lived and died within the system with a deep love and appreciation for all of Earth's creatures. He wrote a lot of songs, and went on a ton of rants in different interviews about this, but this side of him was mostly snuffed from public knowledge. Which is partly why I think he was railroaded. Not only was it a great financial opportunity for all parties involved, including his own lawyer, but he represented the hippie revolution, having no need for material things, being happy and appreciating the simple life nature has to offer. Living off the land, you know? It was dangerous that so many people were enthralled by this way of life. The birth of life on the planet has got to be green. It's got to come through the bushes, got to come through the trees. It's got to come through the seaweeds, and the fish, the birds, and the bees. Sounds like something written by Dr. Seuss himself, doesn't it? Like a line right out of the Lorax? Well, that was a quote from Charles Manson. Now guess what year the Lorax was first published? 1972. Exactly 1 year after Manson's sentencing and conviction. It was said that it was one of Dr. Seuss's favorite books. He liked that he was able to create a story addressing economic and environmental issues without it being dull. The Lorax, he once explained, came out of me being angry. In the Lorax, I was out to attack what I think are evil things, and I let the chips fall where they may. So why would Dr. Seuss, it's pronounced Seuss actually, be so angry, out of the blue like that, and begin writing such a dark tale? What else would have prompted him to think of such a plotline? Sure, the media made Manson out to be this crazed serial killer, but many people knew what he truly represented. People were angered by the miscarriage of justice. The actual murderers were given lenient sentences in exchange for an innocent man's life, and the unaware public ate it all up. Air, man. Air is the thing we need. Without the air, we would not be. To be is to know yourself and the self that is unseen. Compared to previous titles, the Lorax was much deeper, and was more meaningful on a global scale. Being that it was one of his favorites of his own books, it shows that there was great emotional attachment. There is no other apparent reasoning for Dr. Seuss to have come up with this concept, based on his story timeline. The only other story that comes close is Horton Hears a Who, which was inspired by the war, and the line, "A person's a person no matter how small," has been used widely as a slogan by the pro-life movement in the US. There are many clear and direct similarities with Charles Manson's views and the story of the Lorax. Even the more recent full-length movie version takes inspiration from Manson, building the overall main plot theme about the air. Brings it full circle.
Please, I object in the name of the trees.
All complaints will be filed in this box, if you please.
Gentlemen, I wish to speak for the trees. Here are some facts to cogitate and ruminate. It takes 10 months for a truffula seed to germinate. It takes 10 long years before the seed grows into a sapling. It takes 10 more years.
All these demonstrators, they'll run out and demonstrate for a nuclear power plant and go home and turn electricity on. If you want to demonstrate for a nuclear power plant, don't use electricity. Does it make sense? You know what I'm saying? They want to demonstrate for something on one hand and get their faces up in the camera and like, look at me, I'm different, you know, or pay me to be somebody, you dig? And then on the other hand, they can't be somebody because they go home and turn the fucking electricity on and use the same fucking pollution. You dig what I'm saying? In other words, you can't protest cutting down trees with paperwork. You can't protest pollution riding around in automobiles. You dig? I told you 40 years ago, get back to the horse, man.
What's the best way to change things?
I get back to the horse. If you don't get back to the horse, there's going to be nothing left of you.
Just as busy as bees, to the sound of the chopping of truffula trees. Then, oh, baby, oh, my business did grow. Now chopping trees one at a time was too slow. So I promptly invented my super axe hacker, which whacked off 4 truculent trees in one smacker.
It's like you come to an apple tree, right?
Yeah.
You get an apple. That's good, man. So you come back with a basket. You get a bunch of apples. Oh, really good. Then you come back with a bushel. Then you get a whole bushel of apples. Then you bring your pickup truck. Then you come back and get a whole pickup truck full of apples. Then you bring a chainsaw. Saw a tree down and build a house with it. Kindness. The tree labors to make them apples. And the people are rotten. People ain't no good, man.
Oh, yeah.
I speak for the trees. Let them grow. Let them grow. But nobody listens too much, don't you know? I speak for the trees, and I'll yell and I'll shout for the fine things on earth that are on their way out. They say I'm old-fashioned and live in the past. But sometimes I think progress progresses too fast.
For 20 years, we've tried to find intelligent life forms in the United States of America, but didn't seem to be any there. It was all bought and paid for. These guys that sell themselves for that paycheck, they don't exist outside that paycheck.
Why are you mad?
I'm mad at people taking my life.
Putting you in prison?
No, taking my life.
What do you mean?
Well, when you're cutting the trees down, you're taking my life. When you're polluting the water, you're taking my life.
They say I'm a fool to oppose things like these, but I'm going to continue to speak for the trees. I'm going to continue to speak for the trees.
At war also means at war, if you put an R on the end of it.
At war with what?
Pollution. Pollution. A revolution against pollution.
So you're telling me all these people think that you hate the blacks and you hate the Jews and you kill people and all you're really trying to do is stop pollution?
All the time, it's been the same thing. Whatever people put on me is what they're trying to play themselves on their level.
If you could get everybody that's watching football, basketball, and baseball to accept the truth in words, and you tell all those people a simple message, that if you don't start planting and putting back into the earth everything that you've taken from it, you're all going to die and perish in a cruel and terrible way, forever. Yertle the Turtle was almost a carryover. When you look at the premise of these three stories together, it tells one bigger story. How each and every one of us counts. That we can all help make a difference for the environment, if we all work together. Horton Hears a Who, the Lorax, Yertle the Turtle, respectively. In a time when it would have been frowned upon and outwardly criticized to support Manson or advocate his ideology, Dr. Zeus created a tribute, carrying the same base message that Charles Manson wanted so badly to spread. He had no interest in money or fame, to spread hate or war. He just wanted a cleaner, happier earth for all of us. This is why I think religion is such a joke. People wouldn't know Jesus if they were standing right in front of him. If the fairy tale of Jesus were true, the way we treat people with different views are treated worse now than simply being tortured and murdered in a short period of time. Manson gave an entire lifetime to solitary slavery for his natural point of view, his message of love for humans and Mother Nature. His worst actual crimes were petty, including stealing a car and cashing a $37 check to support his pregnant wife. He spent 10 years in prison for the check. In the short time he was out after that, he tried to create a self-sustaining community of society's rejects, a way to exist without stealing or selling yourself. He was a reject of society himself, his mother being a 15-year-old prostitute who basically abandoned him. He wanted a better life for himself and his own children. Sure, the guy made mistakes. He wasn't 100% innocent by any means. But when a handful of the hundreds of people that passed through Spawn Ranch committed serious crimes, they decided to pin it on the guy who was giving those same kids a second chance. Teens that were kicked out, living on the streets, prostituting themselves, using heavy narcotics, committing crimes. No one wanted to take responsibility for their own children. All of them products of a broken education system and society as a whole. So they blamed it on Manson, and labeled him a crazed cult leader. That he had put all these crazy ideas in their heads and drugged them, as if they didn't have enough of their own crazy ideas and weren't already drugging themselves. Some people can climb out of the cracks, but some people fall through them and are completely disregarded and tossed to the side. Regardless if you think he was guilty of conspiracy or not, his message has lived on, and has been passed on through the generations. There's no denying that.
Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not.
They don't care about the children that are in the streets that are thrown out of this upper echelon of existence. And then when all the children fall down into me, on my level, I pretty much identify with them because I was a throwaway also. So it goes to the point of, do you really care?
When you said...
And who does care? And if anybody cares, they're considered crazy. I hadn't been out of jail long enough to really get a perspective of what was happening. I just was released from McNeil Island, and I was in Mexico City prison before that, and I was in Terminal Island before that, so I really wasn't up on the 60s as much as you all make me out to be. I had just got out of prison. Most of those people, like Castavian, I knew her 2 weeks. I had seen her 2 or 3 times around the ranch. I had never even been with the broad, man, that much, you know. People came around me because I played a lot of music, and I was fairly free and open because I really didn't know. Everyone says that I was the leader of those people, but I was actually a follower of the children because, like, I never grew up. I've been in jail most of this time, so I stayed in the minds of the children, and I'm pretty much a street person.
Yeah, your mother was Kathleen Maddox, who never, and you never saw your natural father.
That's not true.
It's not true?
No, my father's name was William Manson.
William?
Yes.
And did you live with him for a while?
No, you know, it's one of those divorce trips where you see a guy walk by and he's your father, and you really don't. I remember his boots, and I remember when he went to the war. I remember when he his uniform, but I don't remember what he really looked like.
Your mother was arrested shortly after the birth and sentenced to prison for assault and robbery.
Yeah.
And you lived with your maternal grandparents and your aunt in West Virginia. You don't have a southern accent, do you?
When I need it.
Yeah, and when you need it. You later resided foster homes until you were made a ward of the court in '47. The rest of the juvenile life was spent in various reformatories and boys' schools in Pennsylvania and Indiana. You dropped out of school at the age of 9 in the 3rd grade. You married Rosalie Willis in 1954. The marriage ended in divorce in 1956. You have one son, Charles Jr.
I really didn't know what I was doing. I was still 9 years old in 3rd grade in my mind. I couldn't very well know what was going on. You know, I never had any help from anyone. No one ever done anything for me. So what I did was I married the first girl I came to and stole a car and came to California because that's where she wanted to come. And I just followed her around like a blind guy because I really didn't know. California was, you know, I didn't know what California was. You know, I'm just a dumb hillbilly. I thought the pigeons were seagulls and the seagulls were pigeons. I didn't know the difference, you know. So when I got to California, it was all about fighting in the county jail. I wasn't out on the street for, what, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before they had me in the jail back in Terminal Island. I learned all the things they learned.
So this is why I'm picking up all these things from all these older men. So they're laying out to me what's right and what's wrong. And I don't really know what's right and what's wrong, because people that say what's right and wrong, they're not doing what they say. They're doing something different than what they say, you know. So I had to find all this out for myself. So then when you keep calling me a criminal and keep calling me a bad guy, then I got to be all the things that you think in your mind that I am, which is that's not really what I am. You got me being a bastard. You got me being a dope fiend. You got me being, everything's bad. I'm only 5 foot tall. I was 5'7", then I went to 5'6". Now I'm down to 5'2". I figure about another 20 years I'll be about 4 feet tall. Because everybody's just constantly pushing it over on me like they got permission to get away with doing anything they want to do to me, because I don't have no parents, because I don't have no money, because I don't have no education. You got to have education or some parents, or you're not smart. You got to be stupid if you don't read and write. You know, you got to be all the things that are bad if you ain't got nobody to protect you. You say in your minds that I'm guilty of everything that you've got on paper. So therefore, it would run logic that I would need to have remorse for what you think is reality. And if that be true, then all the ocean's contents, if it were my tears, there would not be enough to express the remorse I have for the sadness of that world that you people live in. Okay. But I don't have, on the other side of that, I ask you back the same thing. You know, you've been using me ever since I was 10 years old. You used to beat me with leather straps, you know. It's like, does anyone have any remorse that I've spent 23 years in a solitary cell, and even on Devil's Island, you didn't keep anyone over 5 years. You broke every record that they've ever set on the planet Earth. So I go out in the desert when I get out in '54, and I see birds, and I see bees, and bugs, and trees, and then I get locked up. And when I get back out again, all these bugs and birds and trees are gone. There's shopping malls where the lake used to be, using up all the water. And the creeks over there where the freeway is, and you can't swim there anymore. There's no more fish there, and civilization has moved out and it's choking all the life off the earth. So it's not my affair. I just got out of jail. I don't know that much about it. I say, but I tell you, if you don't stop cutting them trees down, there's going to be nothing of you left, you know. And a lot of the kids never met anybody that told them the truth. They never had anybody that was truthful to them, you know. They never had anybody that wouldn't lie or snake on them or play old fake games. So all I did was I was honest with a bunch of kids, and they would just come to me and say, we ain't got no place to stay. And I said, well, I ain't got no place to stay either. And they say, well, can we stay with you? I said, can you stay with me? They'd say, well, we want to be a family. I said, don't put no tags on my toes, man. Don't give them people nothing to identify with that they can come back and put me back in the penitentiary with. I know what conspiracy is. I got an intelligence. I'm not that stupid.